We're delighted to have Mr. Rosen join us on America's Roundtable. Mr. Harris Rosen is President and CEO of Rosen Hotels and Resorts, located in Orlando, Florida.
When you achieve success, when God has been really good to you, it's necessary for you to find people who need a helping hand and help them along the way. That's absolutely critical. And so, over the years, continue to pay taxes at a fairly substantial rate, and I think that's okay, although I must confess that I believe I could use the money much more productively than the public sector can. I could make decisions, I think, much better than the public sector. Philanthropy, I think, is much more beneficial than giving money to the government, but I'm okay. I'm doing my share. Some in government might say I'm not doing my fair share, that we're greedy. I don't think I'm greedy at all. I don't think that I'm not doing my fair share, but I will continue to do so. But to emasculate a man's hard work when he or she dies is absolutely inappropriate. Let that money, or most of that money, pass on to one's heirs, and so they can continue what the father or the grandfather succeeded in doing through a tremendous amount of hard work. If I continue to work until I'm in my mid-80s, and I have every intention of doing so, I suspect that I will pay in income taxes over those many years very close to $500 million. And I would like to think that that money is being used productively, but I know the vast majority of it is being wasted by the federal government, which really saddens me. If the private sector was committed to use those dollars or part of those dollars for their own philanthropy, imagine how many tangible parks there could be. Imagine how many new colleges there would be. Imagine all of the wonderful new things that these entrepreneurs / philanthropists would be able to do that the government has no ability to do whatsoever. It would change our society in a very, very positive way. But I guess in the foreseeable future, that's unlikely to happen.
It is true what you have just stated about the importance of responsible capitalism, in the sense that those that are involved in the private sector, those that take significant risk and invest in and spend significant number of hours working in their respective businesses, are the ones that are creating jobs in America, as well as making significant contribution to our communities. For example, as we look at what is transpiring in Europe, where big government or a welfare state has taken in significant resources but has provided very little. They promise that they will take care of citizens from cradle to grave, but what we've seen right now in Europe is that they have significant public debt, economic decline, and of course, European nations face 20% plus in unemployment rates. We certainly have our challenges here in America with an unemployment rate of over 8% and a significant population that is underemployed because of the economic reasons. And from your perspective, how would you suggest to legislators in really freeing up America's economy so that individuals will be able to achieve that American dream?
Well, you know, it's really, that's a great question, and that is really the gist of everything that's going on. Two different philosophies. One believes that the government has all the answers, and one believes that the extraordinary success America has had over the last several hundred years suggests unequivocally that free enterprise, call it responsible capitalism, is really the answer. We have exceeded anyone's expectations of what a nation can do in a relatively short period of time. And we've done that because of the people we attract and all of the wonderful people we have that work so hard and dedicate their lives to being creative. No other nation has the creativity we have. No other nation has the risk takers we have. No other nation has created what we have created. And for government to believe that they step in and replicate these huge successes we've had is nothing but nonsense. You know, I heard the president the other day indicate that I, Harris Rosen, and millions like me did not do it by ourselves, that we're at help. The government was there to provide provide infrastructure, roads, and bridges. And I've been grateful to the public sector for being by my side and making sure that I didn't go astray. Well, let me tell you this. North Korea has infrastructure. They have bridges, and they have roads, and they have canals. And they have very, very little, if any, entrepreneurship whatsoever. So it's much more than government infrastructure. It is a mindset. It is a kind of person that we have created here in America that has led us into this extraordinary direction of great success and providing wonderful opportunities to so many people. My grandparents came here because of the American dream. People still come here because of the American dream. The American dream is alive, but I will tell you, the light is flickering. And what we need is someone in Washington, D.C. who believes unequivocally in entrepreneurship, in responsible capitalism, in the theory that if you work hard, you're creative, and take a risk on occasion, that really almost anything is possible. I'm a perfect example of it, and there are millions and millions like me, starting from a poor neighborhood, working hard, going to college, being in the Army, and then going out and taking a chance when it looked like there was very little chance to succeed. But succeeding because your mind and your heart and your soul is geared to success and you want to achieve. Look, you sit down when you've achieved your success and you say to yourself, thank you, God, for allowing me to be successful, and now it is my responsibility, my obligation to help others do what I have done. And if all of us do that, this will continue to be the greatest nation ever created on the face of earth.
And I would like to refer your statement, what the president said the other day about the government providing all infrastructure, but who paid for that? It's not government's money. It's the money of all taxpayers.
Well, if I continue to work until I'm in my mid-80s, I will have paid in income taxes over $500 million.
And that is very significant when you compare to the significant contributions you've already made in the community as well.
When it comes to your programs, many times can be provided by private entrepreneurs instead of the government-funded programs. It would be really beneficial to make a cost-benefit analysis. Your medical, you probably did it for your medical facility to compare it, how that relates to what government provides, or to your university, or to your other programs, so that we see who is more effective and what makes the program effective.
Well, let me share this with you, because we were visited by two congressmen several years ago. Congressman Grayson, right here from Central Florida, and Congressman Pallone from New Jersey. They spent a full day with us in our medical center. They had a staff with them. The staff's job was to crunch numbers and determine what would the United States healthcare situation be like if everyone replicated the Rosen system, and where we attack wellness, where we say we've got to keep people well, keep people from getting heavy, keep people from getting sick, keep people from becoming diabetic, keep people from having high cholesterol. What do we say as a nation if we replicated the Rosen philosophy? You know what the answer was? At the end of the day, the numbers crunchers said the minimum savings for the United States of America, if everyone replicated the Rosen healthcare philosophy and his program, a minimum of $1 trillion. And the government wouldn't be involved in healthcare at all. The private sector would handle it, except Medicare and Medicaid, and that the state should handle. Interesting, because in Tangible Park, a wonderful program that provides free preschool education to the whole community, free college education for all of the youngsters who graduate from high school and then go on and graduate from college. We did a return on investment. A professor from the University of Chicago, Lance Lochter, a well-known economics professor, crunched the numbers, and he said to me when he came to give us the presentation, Harris, I have never in my life seen a return on investment like this for a government or a non-government philanthropic program. He said the return is $7 for every dollar you've invested. So if you invested $10 million in tangible property, society has already gotten back $70 million. If we as a nation would invest $1 billion, we would get back $7 billion. Why? Because an educated group makes more money during their lifetime, are involved in much less crime, go on and get wonderful education in graduate school and get their PhDs where the earnings potential expands in an exponential way. That's where the return earning differential between those who graduate from high school and college and get the masters and PhDs. So your dollar is really worth to society $7 or $8. Those two programs alone would change America within a relatively short period of time.
As we were listening to Senator Sessions the other day, he mentioned that unfunded liabilities of this healthcare bill will be some $17 trillion.
Yes, which is absolutely outrageous. You know, we pay all of our bills every year. We have no liabilities at the end of the year. Our cost per covered life has averaged over the last 3 years about $3,000, which is about a third of what the cost per covered life is nationwide. Why? Because if we can keep people healthy, they won't get sick, they won't be in the hospital, they won't see specialists, they won't need all of these expensive tests. That alone will save the United States of America and healthcare costs a fortune by focusing on wellness as opposed to focusing on illness. It's a mindset. We can do it. We've demonstrated over the past 20 years that it works. Now, my dream is to see the Rosen program replicated throughout the United States and the Tangible Park program replicated also. We did get a call from Governor Romney's office, and he is having a gentleman stop by and visit with us on August 8th at our medical center and to look at Tangible Park. My dream is that he will be impressed with both programs, and the governor will adopt both programs as part of his campaign and pronounce that he has some great ideas that will save the country trillions of dollars and will dramatically enhance the well-being and the life of those people living in America.
Mr. Rosen, we truly appreciate your comments, your thoughts, and sharing with us your story about how you are practicing responsible capitalism and the importance of giving back to your community and also training and empowering a new generation. It is also interesting to see how ideas from the private sector are producing such significant results. And you have certainly testified of that. We hope and trust that this will inspire other business leaders to look at your model of how things are happening and also encourage our legislators and basically fellow American citizens to look at ways in which we can do a better job in implementing reforms and doing things that will help us all achieve the American dream. We thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. Rosen.
Thank you both very much.
The U.S. Commerce Department came out with a figure for gross domestic product this week, the broadest measure of all goods and services produced in the economy. GDP grew at a weak 1.5% annual rate in the second quarter of this year, which is a sharp slowing from the first quarter's 2% and the fourth quarter's 4.1%. With the unemployment rate hovering around 8.2% and weak labor market, consumer confidence and consumer spending is low. Consumer spending, which accounts for 70% of GDP, is a major generator for economic growth. The uncertainty in the U.S. fiscal and tax policies and weak domestic demand are major impediment to new business investments that create new jobs. In sharp contrast to Rabushka's flat tax model, which reduces and flattens the tax rate in order to stimulate investments and job creation, the U.S. Senate just made the tax system more progressive. Under the bill passed by Senate last week, income tax rates for couples earning over $250,000 would rise from 33% to 36%. Tax rates on income over about $390,000 would rise from 35% to 39.6%. The rate on most dividends and capital gains would rise from 15 to 20% for incomes over $250,000. The Senate legislation did not address the estate tax, or so-called death tax, although much of the discussion and fight centered on it. If nothing is done, the current estate tax at 35% rate on inheritances worth more than $5 million or $10 million per couple would go back to the rates under Bill Clinton, 55% over $1 million or $2 million per couple. This is an incredibly punitive tax on inherited estates which has to be abolished, like in a number of other developed countries such as in Canada, New Zealand, Australia, Sweden, and many others that have never had it. With the highest corporate tax rate in the world and punitive death tax, America is becoming less attractive for investments, which will impede new job creation and growth. In order to create more jobs, be able to generate more tax income to pay for current government spending, high debt, and unfunded liabilities of Medicare, Medicaid, and new healthcare bill, America needs to have a stronger growth. And it will not achieve it through higher taxes and new tax loopholes.
What an inspiring story to hear of Harris Rosen's humble roots as family members left Central and Eastern Europe and landed on America's shores, seeking freedom and economic opportunity. And many, like his family, left loved ones in different parts of the world, attracted by what America had to offer. However, we must emphasize that it was their hard work and sacrifices, along with America's economic freedom, which allowed them to achieve the American dream. It appears that politicians in our nation have now taken a different approach. Rather than removing barriers to doing business in America, we have higher taxation and more regulation. As we heard on America's Roundtable, entrepreneurs like Mr. Rosen were taken aback by President Obama's statement when he said, I quote, "If you've got a business, you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen," unquote. Mr. Rosen and others have shared their disappointment and have communicated the significant contributions made by entrepreneurs, not only as real job creators, but responsible capitalists, investing in their respective communities, churches, and educational institutions. That is uniquely American. It is in giving back voluntarily that generosity increases, and not through coercion or penalizing people with more taxes. Natasha, you've brought to my attention the extraordinary speech delivered by President Ronald Reagan at the Moscow State University in 1988. I would like to share a brief excerpt of Reagan's speech with our listeners. I quote, "The explorers of the modern era are the entrepreneurs, men with vision, with the courage to take risks and faith enough to brave the unknown. These entrepreneurs and their small enterprises are responsible for almost all the economic growth in the United States. They are the prime movers of the technological revolution," unquote. In contrast to what we've seen over the past decade, President Reagan in the early 1980s championed tax cuts, bold reforms, and spoke highly of America's entrepreneurial spirit. Our fellow Americans understand that entrepreneurialism not only creates jobs and provides goods and services, it also brings in tax revenues to build bridges, roads, schools, and provides a strong national defense.